This is a Geek Leader podcast, and I'm your host, John Rauda. This show is all about helping us grow as leaders, become better technologists, and improve our lives both at work and at home. I hope you enjoy the show and learn a lot. Welcome to a Geek Leader podcast. I'm your host, John Rauda. And if you could, please do me a favor and take a moment and leave a rating and review in whatever podcast player you're listening to this on, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, doesn't matter. I would greatly appreciate it. And that feedback really helps get other listeners to the show. Also, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you feel so inclined, you can go to geekleader.com/tip and donate to the show. Thanks so much.
And it's audio. All right, Geek Leaders, today I'm honored to have Will Linssen on the show. He is the CEO of the Global Coach Group, and he's also the author of many, many books, which we're going to talk about one today, the Triple Win Leadership Coaching. But he comes with a wealth of background and of coaching leaders like us that are trying to survive this whole thing of managing people. Anyway, with all that being said, Will, welcome to the show.
Yes, thanks for having me, John. Great to be here.
If you don't mind, just tell the audience a little bit about your background, how you got into coaching and leadership, and why this is important to you.
Yes, I mean, my first degree was actually a technology management degree, so I wasn't really in coding, but I was in the intersection between software and how people use software, which is a high friction point in organizations, has been and still is. And I was very interested in it. I was interested in how technology is changing our world, but also I was interested in how technology is changing the world of the people who work with all that stuff. So I kind of grew up in that atmosphere, and then basically very quickly rose the ranks in the company and became a country CEO and also regional CEO of a number of larger companies. And I found leadership always very exciting because at the end of the day, every organization is about people. And every service or every product we make is about people. As a leader, I realized much of what we do is really helping people to be better with people. And it's not so much about the products or the services that we provide. So, and that kind of also kind of moved me into coaching because while I was in corporate, I had some coaches, and my boss had a coach, and also we had some coaches for other people in the organization that were working for me. So I really kind of was early on in touch with how coaching can help. At the same time, I always felt like, I see that people think that they're getting better, and not everybody acknowledges their improvement. Yeah. So what's missing? And I'm very much of a systems thinker, and I was, as an IT systems designer, was kind of grew up in systems thinking. So that kind of pulled me also into coaching and making coaching a more systems approach.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good. And I think that's, and I know for me, like leadership was almost like an acquired taste. It's one of those things where I got thrown into it, from the, being a software engineer, and then all of a sudden now you're managing software engineers. And it was like, I don't like this as much because I can't control it as much. But then you learn to appreciate the human side of it and kind of grow into that and realize that like I'm no longer writing code, and now I'm, growing leaders, and it's a very different thing. I'm helping people achieve their potential, and it's more rewarding, but even if it is more challenging up front sometimes. When you say you saw coaching and how that was beneficial for those around you, did you feel like you getting into coaching was like giving back, or did it just something like you just kind of gravitated to?
It was very much like, as a kind of corporate leader, I really liked that leadership part in helping people to be better with themselves and with their teams. And I thought, if you really like that so much, and if you're really passionate about it, then you don't need to be in pharma, chemicals and plastics and tech, but then you're in the people business. So then you have to be in the people business, and coaching is something that really I gravitated to. And I also just finished up my MBA at that time in IMD in Switzerland. And I was in the US for a number of programs. I studied in Columbia University, and I really thought, that's it, man. That's what I should jump into. And that's really where the future is going. And I really like that idea. So just kind of go for it. That's what I did.
Yeah, I think it was a good move. I really like the, like I said, leadership for me was like an acquired taste. I didn't really I got into doing this podcast even almost out of necessity because I was a bad boss and I was a bad leader. And I thought like doing something to hold myself accountable for it. I equate it to almost like running. If anybody that's a runner and they run races and stuff like that, they're addicted to it and they're just going to keep doing it. But that first time putting on your shoes and getting out there in the cold and going for a run is hard and it's not fun. But you get something from it that's rewarding that makes you want to keep going back and keep doing it. And I think leading people and learning more about leadership and trying to grow my leadership is put me in that same kind of position.
Mhm. I think
Um,
there are two things to that. So on one hand is as a tech employee or any employee, you want to kind of move up in your career and basically kind of grow and develop yourself and be a bigger person and earn more money, right? And make
Mhm.
a career. And then at a certain point, leading people in a way becomes a necessity, right? Because if
does.
you're not going to do that, then you get stuck into being in an expert role, which is fine, but it has its limitations even more so in tech.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And there's a lot of people that stay at that expert level, and that's great because they're needed. They are the foundation that we build stuff off of, and I think it's a very important thing. But in developing the leadership skills, though, I found that it helps me outside of work just as much. Like in parenting, just being able to talk to my kids and lead them the way that I do at work. And there's a lot of crossovers there that I didn't realize until I had kids, and then I start seeing like this worked with people at work. Let me see if it works with my kids, and sure enough, it does. Um, what do you tell people that struggle with their first time managing and leading people and not knowing how to do it well?
Yeah, there's a few things to it. I think people need to really know who they are and be themselves, right? Be the best version of yourself and don't try to be somebody that you're not. A lot of tech people, they might be introverted or
Mhm.
they're very, very logical or very task orientated, and that's fine. You don't have to be the fluffy, warm-hearted tech leader if you're not that kind of personality. That's fine. Um, we have a program called the Authentic Leadership Model, where people kind of really articulate the kind of leader they aspire to be and want to be known for. And it helps people also in their awareness to articulate really the leader they want to be. It's a little bit like, as you just referred to family, it's like, uh, uh, the authentic, real dad I want to be known for, right? It's kind of that approach. Uh, so that helps people to sort things out. And then the other piece is if you're a leader leading a number of technology people and probably have a boss who might or might not be a technology boss and peers that you need to deal with who might or probably not technology people at all, then you're dealing with a large diversity of types of people. And the easiest way to improve as a leader, to pick one or two things that you want to improve at, maybe empowerment, which is a very big thing in tech leaders that I coach, or influencing or disciplined execution, right? So these are some of the typical themes that a lot of tech people are working with. And then ask people for suggestions. Hey, I want to get better at empowerment. I'm working with you. What suggestion do you have for me that I can do in the next 30 days? So ask people a future focused suggestion. It's easy for people to give you an answer. And what happens then is that if you ask 10 different people, you probably get five or more different answers.
Mhm.
Many of them you didn't really expect. But also now you have an approach that you think, yeah, uh, for that person, I need to approach it this way, and the other person, I need to approach it that way. And then it's much easier to create that skill in, for instance, empowerment or execution or whatever you're trying to create in a customized way in the people that you're working with. So you address that diversity in your particular environment. So it becomes very easy then because it gets out of your head. You don't have to think, what's the best way to do it. Just ask people and they give you the answers and then build your execution model literally around that.
Yeah. Do you find like when I know for me, it depends on who I ask. You said you're gonna get different answers, but sometimes people are more honest than others. And a lot of times when you're the boss and you're asking like your employees, like, what can you do differently and better? They're not gonna be as direct and honest with you. How do you find people that will tell you that hard truth that you need to focus on for those 30 days of future focus suggestions?
So uh, you need to not ask once, you need to ask that regularly, right? And
Mhm.
uh, if you say, hey, these are some of the suggestions I got from other people and I worked them in this action plan, and here is my action plan. So you give people the action plan that you are working on around, for instance, empowerment. Yeah. Then people will be surprised and thinking, oh my goodness, that's interesting. I didn't really provide my honest suggestion, but I see there's some good stuff in there. You know what? Maybe next time a manager is asking, I should actually tell him some specific things that I want them to do, because it's going to help me
Mm.
to be a better employee and to be a better team member. And it's not just helping me, I think it's also going to help my boss in working better together. So that kind of opens up over time. Some people will quickly provide their suggestions. So you need to create that trust and that safe environment. And the easiest way is to create that kind of openness from your side in the way I just explained. Focus on one or two things, ask some suggestions, make an action plan, share the action plan, and then implement it. And in the worst case scenario is people will be positively surprised.
Yeah, I think that I think it was the third step, the share the action plan. I think is very important because when you share what you're doing, and that was like we were talking right before we started recording, that part of the reason why I started this podcast was to help myself become a better leader, and in doing that, like I was able to publicly share the things that I'm learning and let my employees hold me accountable for doing those things. Like when I say on a podcast, I like to have regular one-on-ones because it's important. Now I have to have those one-on-ones because I just publicly said in front of thousands of people that I'm going to have one-on-ones. And if I don't, my employees can listen to this and they can see that and hold me accountable to the things that I'm not doing what I said I would do. Um, the same thing's true like with other things that motivate you. I know when I ran my first marathon, I posted it on Facebook that I was going to run a marathon. And that made me motivated to do it because I've already said I'm going to do it. And now the whole world knows that I'm going to do it. So I better freaking do it.
So let me on the back of what you just said. So on one hand, as you publish your action plan, you are being accountable. But as a leader, there's even something more powerful happening.
Hmm.
The people, they give you suggestions, they gotta get involved. You make the action plan, including their suggestions. You share in that action plan, and you become accountable. But guess what? While you're implementing the action plan, they are going to be part of the implementation piece. And before they know it, they also going to be accountable, because all of a sudden they realize, my boss is working on empowerment and execution. But guess who's being empowered and guess who's executing? And I want to be better at this too, because that makes me a better employee. That makes me a better team member. That makes me more valuable to my manager. So all of a sudden, that accountability is shared. Yeah? And that shared accountability comes because the leader is focusing on something that's important to them and to their coworkers. The leader is creating an action plan that is relevant to the people they're working with. And the leader is implementing an action plan together with the people they're working with. And all of a sudden people feel like, yeah, this is a great collaborative approach to get better together. And that's what the triple win is all about. It's about the leader gets better, the team gets better, and of course, also the results get better, because it's very difficult to improve as a leader and improve as a team and not results being improved, performance not being improved, right? So all three get better at the same time if you create that tight uh, implementation process. And I think a lot of people in tech, they are familiar with Agile.
Yeah.
So we actually use a lot of principles from Agile in the coaching process for two reasons. First off, it works. And secondly, it makes it easy for people to realize, all right, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to improve my leadership in that way, because it works in Agile in other areas of the business. So that makes total sense that this works in leadership development and team development at the same time.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I've tried to incorporate some of the agile principles in lots of things that I do. And some of the simple things like just, daily stand-ups and retrospects. I think retrospects are, far more powerful um, outside of agile, project management, just in life, when you're talking about like what went well, what didn't go well with your employees, on a regular basis during one-on-ones and things like that. It's a very valuable thing to kind of see if progress is being made and what things we should keep doing and what things we should stop doing. And I think that stop doing thing, we find ourselves all the time in businesses that we start doing projects and processes, and sometimes those processes need to come to an end, but we continue to do them because that's just what we've always done. And then we build all these inefficiencies and things that kind of come into place. And having that retrospective talk about why we do these things and what's the benefit and what worked well and what didn't work well is really important.
Mhm. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah.
When it comes to the triple win, how'd you come up with that title for your coaching book?
So it's a little of an evolution. I mean, I started this coaching about 25 plus years ago now. And so first of all, since I'm a process engineer and in IT, I thought, you need to processify this whole coaching process, same as any other service, because then you have scalability, then you can systematize, then you can make it more tight and better. And of course, people don't want to pay for process; people want to pay for results. I mean, same as software, right? People don't want to pay for bits and bytes; they want to pay for what these bits and bytes do, right? So people want to have outcomes, they want to have results from coaching. So clients obviously are asking for this, which we measured very early on how leaders get better based on what coworkers are saying. And then we also felt like, but we also know that the team gets better and results get better. And we did a few client engagements, including all these things. But clients obviously are asking for this and say, hey, leaders get better, great, but what about the team and what about the business results and what about return on investment in coaching? So at a certain point we thought, well, people are asking for it. We just should start measuring it, But in worst case scenario, it's not the case, right? Likely scenario, it all makes sense. It's all correlated, so it's probably causated, so it probably works. Yeah? So we just started. Yeah? So we built the measurement system, and then we reverse engineered it to make it work better. So make it more tight, make it more focused. And at a certain point, it was like, leaders get better, teams get better, results get better. We always talk about a win-win approach and stuff like that. It's like, this is a triple win, right? So that's how it kind of came about. So it was really at a certain point, it kind of stared us in the face, and it's like, that's actually triple win. That's what it is. So, and that stuck.
I know you also talked a lot about influence in the past. How does someone help gain influence when they're a new leader and maybe they haven't had I don't know what the word I'm looking for. They haven't had like a proof of work yet. They haven't shown that they're necessarily knowledgeable and have experience yet.
Yeah, I think that's fine, because part of what's happening at the moment in the use of AI in the workplace, that leaders who are smart and have a lot of experience and kind of they earned their stripes and they're let's say the big honchos who know it all. One of their challenges is that they don't have time. Yeah, so they don't have time to do a lot of stuff because they're busy. And the other piece is that they have let's call it a kind of a one-sided approach. Right? They have a lot of historical experience, which might be amazingly interesting, but it's not necessarily a wide spectrum of experience. So if you as a young person articulate with your manager well what the problem really looks like, so that is well articulated, and then as a young person you go out there and you wrestle with AI and do some good research and come up with some good benchmark solutions and this and that, then you can come up actually with really, really solid, amazing ideas that your manager never would have dreamt about, because they don't have the time and the capabilities to do that exercise in that way. So what that means, as a young person, you actually can become very quickly very valuable for more senior leaders if you understand the problem well that we're trying to solve, and can go out there and find some applicable solutions that are benchmark quality, that managers would say, that sounds very interesting. We need to dig into that deeper, because it likely that could be very applicable to us as well.
How important is the way you communicate that? So, if you do understand the problem better and you do have some unique solutions that you think will be very valuable, how do you go about communicating that in the right way?
So as a younger person dealing with your manager, I think that's what you're asking. Uh, start with asking questions, right? Because many times managers, they kind of throw the problem out there, but a lot of it is still in their mind. So it's still the kind of half-baked dribble that is then thrown out there. And I think as a young manager or a young team member, asking particular questions, as in, how does the problem look like? How does success look like? How did we approach this kind of problem solving in the past, right? What are some references that you know of that that could be applicable? Are there some people that you know that we could talk to or ask about or connect with? Yeah. So ask some questions to help you to basically start your personal prompt before you go to your AI friend and prompt from there. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I do want to talk a little bit about AI and coaching in just a second, but one thing before that, I've noticed in the hundreds of conversations that I've had with coaches and other leaders out there that a lot of times people go through the same path that you did, where they went into either business or technology, got into leadership and management there, and then kind of pivoted over into coaching other leaders and managers. What advice would you have to someone that's wanting to make that step and make that pivot out of general management into leadership coaching?
Yeah, a few pieces of advice. I think it's important for people to get a well-reputed certification that is ICF accredited, right, or something else. But ICF is basically the biggest organization in the world out there, and coaching is a very kind of opaque job role. So more and more companies, about 85% of companies, ask people to be accredited from organizations like ICF. So it's like, if you want to be an Uber driver, get a driver license, right? So
Yeah.
that's one thing, right? And then the second thing is, it is important to realize that I always tell people, in the 90s, the coach was the guru. Right? The guru is the person who knows it all, right? Sharing light and darkness. That's what guru means. Then early 2000s, kind of Google came around, and Google was the guru because Google can provide you with so much more information faster than a coach could. Yeah? And now with AI is even better than Google with as a knowledge provider. So as a coach, you're not the person who has the best knowledge. That is not the role of the coach, because AI can do this cheaper, faster than any coach. The challenge that leaders have is how to convert my know-how into show-how at work, right? How to convert the things that I know is the right thing to do. How do I make it work with me, with my special environment, with my special people and my special me, right? So we're living in a crazy world, and make it fit for our environment. So that's where the coach can really help a lot. Yeah. And the number three is people want to buy results. They don't want to buy process, right? People don't want to buy a coaching journey for a number of hours and this and that and the other. If you look at medical services, right? If you go to the hospital with a broken leg, you want to get your leg fixed. You don't want to have pay for certain hours to be entertained by a doctor, right? A dentist, same thing, right? So a lot of services that we buy, we're buying results. We don't buy process. As a coach, same thing. You need to be able to deliver results and sell results. Yeah. So get the right accreditation process. Make sure that you focus on that intersection of know-how to show-how, yeah? And make sure that you are able to sell results and not process. Most coaches are selling process, yeah, which is I think is an ending game. Yeah.
Yeah, I like what you're saying, is show results and be able to sell results, because that's really what we're looking for from a business standpoint, right? We want results, or even from a personal standpoint, we want results. So you talked a little bit about AI and how AI has all the, really does have, pretty much all the answers that we're looking for most things, or majority of them. And how should we as leaders be using AI to kind of help us with our coaching life, or our leadership life? Let me give you an example of one of the ways that I'm doing it. You can tell me if I'm doing it wrong or if it's helpful or whatever. But like before I have like a difficult conversation with a one-on-one or something like that I'm going to have, a lot of times I will set up the scenario in, a ChatGPT or Gemini where I'll say something like, I'm getting ready to meet with somebody. Here's a little bit about, their current workload or their current life situation. And I need to give them this news. Here's what I'm planning on saying. How do you think that'll be received? How do you think I should, reframe what I'm saying? And I try to get some advice that way back. And, sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's not. But I'm curious of what your take is of using tools like that.
So you can use AI as a thinking partner, right? That's what you're doing, right? It's like uh, before you go tell something to somebody, say, hey, this is what I want to say. What is a better way to say it or more structured way to say it? Or actually, I would actually add to that prompt, um, what are some questions that I could be asking that the people come up with their own solutions rather than me putting the finger on the sore spot, right? Because that idea of how to not tell people the bad news, but think a little further and say, what is the question I need to ask so that they come up with the right answer, then actually you get much faster to solutions. So yeah, I think AI as thinking partner is great. Yeah. Um, I mean, AI has serious limitations because it doesn't understand the context of where you live, right? So so in that fact, it's a great kind of second opinion, right? I mean, if you go to the doctor and you start talking to the doctor about things, then the doctor might say, you already talked to a doctor AI, right, before you came to me, right? So that has advantages and disadvantages if you're trying to talk to the doctor in that way. So yeah, I think first off, AI is thinking partner. I think that's a good one. But then to start to use AI to get the perspective from the other person or uh, look for questions to help the other person think and come with solutions that you want to hear. So I would actually try to use AI in a more uh, powerful sense in that way. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a really good thing that I'm missing there is asking it what additional questions I should be asking and what other things I should be looking for. Because I'm sure that I'm not the first person to have this situation that has, written about it or prompted about it at some point. So being able to gain more insight by finding out what questions to ask, I think is very important.
Yeah. Sure.
Go ahead.
I'll think about this metaphor, right? You earlier were talking about your wife and children. If you have to share something with your wife, as simple as, I love you because, then asking AI might not come up with the right answers, right?
Right.
And that discussion could go very quickly south with your wife at that point. But if you come up with the right questions, right, that your wife can then easily answer, or your kids, right, then all of a sudden you have a very warm, effective two-way dialogue. And I think that's exactly what I'm trying to point at and say, okay, how do you use AI for that? Because if AI is just another voice in the room, then it's that then AI is your additional family member in a way, right? Which is not that relevant. But if you can help AI uh, to bring in the conversation or to fuel the conversation between you and the other person, whether that's a family member or a person at work, that is actually gold. Yeah.
No, I think you're right. I think that's the whole point, right? Is to fuel the conversation with the individual and coming up with the ways to do that. Because a lot of people have anxiety when it comes to things like one-on-ones and direct conversations and having, something like that and having something to kind of prompt them to ask these questions to get the conversation started kind of relieves some of that, fear of going into it. So I think that is helpful. Have you seen any shifts in your area when it comes to AI? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is, and I know you co-authored a book with Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, and he was on the podcast not too long ago, talking about his Marshall Goldsmith.ai bot that he has that's kind of trained on his stuff. Have you seen any shifts or tendencies with AI when it comes to coaching?
Yeah, I think that AI is going to be a huge important part in coaching.
Mhm.
Uh, most of my clients that I'm coaching using AI, even in the interaction I have with them, so even in their own coaching journey, they use AI with me. I use AI with them. I think it's becoming an integral part of how we work and think and do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit like e-commerce, right? I mean, e-commerce 25 years ago was kind of something special, but nowadays e-commerce is in everything, right? It's like almost like if you're not having any e-commerce approach to anything, then it's like, what planet are you on, right?
Yeah.
It is becoming a very normal part of how we kind of work and interact. Um, but it's an add-on, right? It's not the main thing, right? It cannot substitute, same as the dialogue with your family member or with your coworker. Uh, AI cannot substitute, but they can complement.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's a really good approach and a good way of saying that and I agree with you 100%. It's a compliment to the things that you're doing. And, like you said, how much money would you be leaving off the table if you didn't use e-commerce with your business, if you didn't have a way for people to sell online? And the same thing will be true with AI as it progresses in the future as well. Will, I think this has been a great conversation, and I really appreciate everything that you've had to add and your insightful thoughts and stuff that you shared with everybody. How can people learn more about the things that you're doing, connect with you online, or pick up a copy of your book?
So the easiest way is to go to our website, globalcoachgroup.com, and there is a page on the book, and there is also an e-learning on the book, so you can actually get free access to the e-learning, and there's a lot of things in the e-learning that it's free and people can download and can immediately use in their job. Which so a number of tools really very useful, and you also can go online and buy the book if that's your next level of excitement, and then go from there. Or if you're specifically interested in coaching or even getting trained as a coach, then you can email us at coach@globalcoachgroup.com, and then we can take the conversation from there.
Awesome. And I'll put those in the show notes too at geekleader.com so people can go there and click through and find out more. Again, Will, thanks so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate having you on.
Thank you very much for having me.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Please go to geekleader.com to learn more about what this guest is up to, click on their links, and connect with them online. I would also greatly appreciate it if you could leave me a rating and review in Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to the show. And make sure you've subscribed if you haven't already. And if you feel so inclined, you can leave me a tip by going to geekleader.com/tip.